So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Keir Starmer being urged to speak out and help millions of EU citizens in Britain. So this is about the deadline for settled status passing. This was just before the deadline had ended. But it's worth covering because it does tell you that Labour are kind of lost on where they should be. And the fact that it does show some internal divisions within the Labour Party over, how to sort of treat EU citizens, I guess, in the country. Also, the fact that Starmer has been very quiet on, settled status and things like that, and Brexit as a whole. It's very bizarre, I'm going to say. So more than 400 Labour activists have written to Keir Starmer saying it's inexcusable for the party to remain so quiet on the issue of settled status for EU citizens in the UK as this week's 30th of June deadline has passed. Signatories include Laura Parker, a prominent supporter of Starmer's leadership bid. So you can see that, when we list off these names, right, they are very different people, I'm going to say, in terms of their perspective on the Labour Party. You have, I can't pronounce their second name, but you have Gaia, the national co-chair of Momentum, who are extremely left-wing, who backed Rebecca Long-Bailey as leader. And you have Michael Chesham, the national organiser of the left-wing pro-European party grouping Another Europe is Possible, who I don't think they're as left-wing as maybe The Guardian is saying here. But what you have is, it's hard to understand where Starmer kind of sits within the party in terms of, is he centre-left or left-wing, or, really left-wing. But if we look here, right, if we assume, say, Laura Parker is, say, kind of just past centre-left to left-wing, right, you have the Momentum co-chair who would be extremely left-wing, and then you'd have Another Europe who would probably be centre-left, probably similar to where Laura Parker would be. I'm just making assumptions here, but the point being is that you have people across the spectrum within the Labour Party saying that Labour should be back, it should be doing more to help EU citizens as the deadline passed for settled status. That's the point I'm trying to go for. In their letter, they warn of dire consequences of tens of thousands of Europeans who they say will fall through the applications net and will have to rely on being treated mercifully by the Home Office. And we know that the Home Office, for the length of the Tory party, has gone for a vicious cycle of being hostile towards foreigners. Absolutely as hostile as they can be. They do not care. Let's not forget about the go home vans and all this stuff. So they're going to be, the EU citizens here that don't have settled status are in a very awkward situation right now, and they could be deported. And some of these people would be no fault of their own. And there are people who say, oh, they should have took responsibility. Some of these people are just kids. Some of these people are in care, as mentioned in this article. And some of these people are old. Some of these people may not even may not have known what they needed to do, especially since they were promised that they wouldn't have to do this. No one is threatening the rights of EU citizens within the UK. Can't remember which Brexiteer said that, but apparently they were wrong. Not just about that, but about a lot of other things. But anyways, they also raise fears about millions more who have only temporary status and could face a hostile approach from the government officials. The fact is, if they're only here temporarily, the government could try and push to deport them before their temporary status is up. The fact is, anyone who was here, prior to, it's hard to put a date on this one, but any EU citizens that are here, that that live here, that work here, or whatever, should have been given automatic status. Anyone that goes to school here or has bought a house or has roots here, they should have been given automatic status. You could put a time frame on that. You could say maybe at the end of this year, anyone coming after would need to get visas or whatever. But these people who were here already, especially prior to the 2016 referendum, should have been given automatic status within the UK. Without having to do all this nonsense paperwork. They should have been given paper copies of the fact that they're going to be allowed to stay in the UK for as long as they want. And if you want to make it so if they commit a violent crime or whatever, they can be deported, fine. I'm okay with that. But the simple fact is these people have been treated very badly by successive Tory governments who really didn't care about them and lied to them about their living situation. Because you got to imagine, if your kids go to school here and for whatever reason you didn't manage to get settled status, which we've seen happen. We've seen the wife of an Olympian who she wasn't given settled status by the UK. I think he might have been a non-EU citizen, but the rules around who is given citizenship and settled status is very nebulous and very stupid, to be honest. The activists say that Labour has not said or done anything about the situation, which is true. They haven't really said a lot. I don't think they have. Privately, those behind the letter believe that what they call red wallism, a fear of Labour being seen as too pro-Brexit and too pro-immigrant by some working class voters, is to blame. But the thing is, if you're going to throw EU citizens under the bus, then I don't want to be a part of this Labour Party. If you're going to throw vulnerable people under the bus to appeal to a bunch of racists, I'm not. I don't want to part. I don't want to be a part of it, G. I don't want to be a part of this party. If this is the case, that is not the party that I want representing me. I don't. Calling for Starmer to urge the government to drop the 30th June deadline, the letter says the existence of the settled status application process is itself a betrayal of the promises that Leave campaigners made during the EU referendum, which is true. That is a betrayal of what they said. But the thing is, so many things they've said is a betrayal of what they originally said. Let's not forget, Boris Johnson said in 2019 there would not be a border in the Irish Sea. Fast forward to this year, there is a trade border in the Irish Sea. So, using this argument, it's okay, but it won't work. It's not going to go through. It's not going to, it's not going to ring through for a lot of people. Again and again, European citizens were told that their right to stay would be automatic, which should have happened. Absolutely, should have happened. It should have been automatic. Instead, more than 5 million people are being forced through a dysfunctional system. Government IT systems aren't great anyways, and you've got to think, especially if English is your second language, it's going to be very difficult to navigate the system, especially when they ask for specific papers which you may not have at hand. Soon they will be brought under the regime of an increasingly digitised and aggressive hostile environment, not to forget the fact that sometimes government systems don't even work. That's another problem where if you're trying to prove you have settled status, there's a lady on Twitter, Dr. Alex, who talks about this stuff. I think she's a counsellor in Cambridge now. She talks about how sometimes the settled status, the digital paper or whatever, it doesn't work. And that can cause you more problems, especially since the person, say you're applying to rent at a place, a house or whatever, you have to send the landlord a code, and if they put in that code and it doesn't come through, it doesn't show the document because there's an IT issue, then that landlord's not going to rent to you, and that's going to cause you more problems. So she documented it quite well. She did some TikTok videos, which generally I'm not a big fan of those, but I learned something within the space of 2 minutes, which can't be frowned upon. Labour said it was wrong to accuse it of inaction, and it was urging ministers to extend the settlement scheme for a limited period until the end of September. I disagree. I think what should happen is these people should be given automatic status. The government should actively look for these people and say, look, this is the situation right now. We're going to give you automatic settled status. We do need some docs from you. If you can send those through within a certain time frame, great. And we're going to help you through these applications. That's what the government should have done from the start, and you could have done it so you help, certain age groups or whatever within a certain time frame. So then it doesn't have to be all at once. That's what should have happened. So Nick Thomas-Symonds, the Shadow Home Secretary, said the government has been warned that vulnerable individuals, children in care, and care leavers could fall through the cracks when it comes to applying to the settlement scheme with the deadline fast approaching. I mean, that's great. You've warned the government about these things, but what would you do in the government's place? And what else are you telling them? Because it's no good just saying, oh, there are people who are going to be negatively impacted by this. The government don't care. You need to offer actual solutions here. The UK government has not done enough to prevent that from happening, and it's only right that a short extension to the end of September be applied. The thing is, even if you apply a short extension, people are still going to fall through the cracks here. What you want to do is get the government actively to look for people who have not applied for settled status, especially elderly people or people within care or people who, their English isn't the best, so they may not be able to navigate the systems. That's what the government has to do here, to actively look for people to help them get through this, because they are living in this country and we do owe them an obligation to help them. So yeah, extend to September to make sure that the Home Office can do everything in their power to get all of those eligible signed up. Again, this is just very sort of milquetoast, half and half stuff here. Not great. Thomas-Symonds goes on to say, we cannot have a repeat of the Windrush scandal, which also affected wholly innocent people in a terrible way, which also affected, that was the whole thing of the Windrush scandal. It didn't just also affect wholly innocent people, it was mainly innocent people who were impacted. Why are you giving such a weird statement? I don't get it. But yeah, we saw massive amounts of people deported, had fired from their jobs because of their status, not given NHS care. I think there were even cancer patients who couldn't get care from the NHS because of the fact that the government didn't see them as British citizens or the other one, British residents or whatever. It's absolutely abysmal. He goes on to say the Home Office must learn from its past mistakes, but the thing is, just extending the deadline isn't enough. You need to actively look for the people who should be applying for settled status and saying, look, you haven't applied for settled status. What's going on? Can you do it by yourself? Or what kind of help do you need? That's what the government should be doing. But yeah, Labour with like a standard milquetoast thing because they apparently don't want to upset racists within the red wall. You're not going to win these voters back, my friend. You're not going to do it. If you think that by kind of straddling the line between racist and not racist, if you think there's a thin line there, there really isn't. The Tories are going to always appeal to these people. Why? Because they don't vote based on materially improving their lives. They vote based on their feelings. They vote based on the fact that they want to see less foreigners out there, and the Labour Party can't match that, and the Labour Party shouldn't match that kind of energy. They should be doing their own thing, and they should be pushing for the government to give people automatic status and actively look for people who don't have settled status but should have it, who should have applied for it. Anyways, look, I'm going to leave it there. Starmer's a joke. Like, come on, dude, do better. Anyways, like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and I'll see you in the next one.